I wander free. I let it be. The world's my home.
And we are live with Wanderlust Chronicles. I'm Barbara Lapointe. I'm so excited to be broadcasting live here on Zoom with one of our authors, Christy, from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Wanderlust Chronicles is a global anthology a series for women, and we celebrate travel, inner transformation, and self-discovery. It's real women with real stories, just like you, and just like our next guest, Christy. Hi, Christy, welcome.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us.
Of course. I've got can you see, am I in the way? Where is it? Oh, gotta scoot, scoot, scoot. There it is. Got my
Yes!
book right
I
there.
I love it. That looks beautiful, beautiful. I bookmarked your chapter because I mean, like, how old-fashioned to like read a book and and this is where I want to read your bio from. And your bio is where we're going to start because Christy, you are describing yourself as a magnetic storyteller, strategist, and coach. You help build leaders and authentic brands from the inside out. That is like, it hits a sweet spot. Tell me more about that so we can learn more about you before we dive deep into your chapter.
Yes, well, it took me a long time to realize maybe what my special gift is. I don't know if you're able to resonate with this at all, but I think that for a lot of us, it can be hard to feel like we know what our special gift is or how to articulate that because there's this metaphor that it's hard to read the label of the bottle that you're in, right? And I found that I've lived a very dynamic life. I am a very complex person with complex ideas and all the ideas always out here. And so it really originated with helping others build their brand through the fact that I needed somebody to be able to hold the space to listen to all of my life story and be like, "Oh, this is how things connect." And I would find that a lot of people that are passionate about transformation, like those who are in our book and have read our book, okay, that's great. I've lived through this big life transformation. I have so much personal development experience. It's coming out of my ears. How do I translate that into business results that people would want to pay me so that I can share my transformation with others? And so that's really what I've been helping specialize with. And, if you are somebody who is neurodivergent or ADHD or just have you ever heard of synesthesia? I love this word. Some people think in music and colors and actually have to translate that in their brain into words. So I
Yeah.
love working with leaders like this that have complex minds and complex ideas to take the pressure off of them and allow me to hold the space and help articulate what is inside and bring that out.
That's very inspiring and very impactful in today's complicated world. And I've had a coaching session with you, and so I know how highly impactful you are. I loved, Christy, that you explained all of this as a container, because you went to Slovenia, correct?
Yeah, yes,
And
yes.
that's the container for your transformation and for some of the important lessons that you learned in your journey.
Yes, definitely. And at the time, I had no idea that that would be such an impactful trip and experience. Like many travels, I was overseas for 5 years. I had just gotten done with Mind Valley University. I had the good fortune and honor to speak on that stage. And afterwards, a guy was like, "Come travel with me." And I was like, "No, no, I'm just out of a long-term relationship. No, I'm going to be free and independent and I don't need a guy." And apparently, that's the most attractive thing you can ever tell a man because the persistence was big, and so I went. And well, I won't give too much away. I'm sure you have some questions, but that day ended up being very impactful for me. Yes.
Oh, I'm super curious right
You're
now.
like, no, I didn't have questions. I was on the hook.
Now I'm really curious. Let's go into that and reveal what that why that was meaningful for you and what happened basically. That's what I think we all want to know.
Yeah, okay. So, gosh, we're getting very transparent here, very vulnerable. So much so that when I was writing my story or deciding which of the 35 countries I've had the good fortune of living in to choose, I was like, Rusty, speaking with one of your editors, I'm a little stuck because honestly, every country that I was with pretty much, it's embarrassing. Every country is kind of tainted by the guy that I was with then. And she was like, "Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. Tell me more." And as we, started talking, first I had to admit that truth, that it looks so glamorous. I've lived all over the world. Yes, I had amazing experiences, but in truth, most of those experiences were developing me. And growth is not always fun. And it was in Slovenia that I realized that I had had my heart broken twice by men I wasn't even interested in to begin with. Kind of told them no, they would be persistent. Now we have the terms maybe love bombing. They're like, no, no, let's do this. Let's go on this hike. Let's have this experience. And it was being tethered on this huge rock face because in Slovenia, hiking means something very different than it does in North America. And it was basically rock climbing, terrified of heights. And I was able to see that I was chaining myself to tethering myself to men for safety. And it was this big metaphor of being tethered to an instructor for safety on the edge of this cliff face that had me, once I got to the top, facing another fear of heights. The month prior, I faced my fear of cliff jumping. I did not want to. I was speaking at Mind Valley on courage, and I was like, yeah, it took a lot of courage because I used to be terrified to speak up and say my name in an audience and hold a mic, and now I'm on stage. I'm going to talk about courage. And then 2 days before my talk, I got invited cliff jumping. So, of course, I'm not going to be the speaker who says, make sure you check out my talk on courage. It's going to be amazing, but I'm way too scared to go cliff jumping with you guys, so can't go. By the time I got to Slovenia a month later, I thought, I don't want to face any fears. I don't need to do anything. I just proved myself like crazy last month. I'm just going to go on a simple little hike. And many, many hours later, one foot in front of the other, I'm summiting this mountaintop, this cliff face. And it ended up being so powerful because I was able to realize that I'm okay on my own and that I don't actually need others because look at what I just summited again and again and again. So it was a moment of showing me my own strength, my own resilience, and kind of showing me a metaphor of how I had been living.
That's really quite a fascinating story. I actually think personally many women could relate to this story because it has probably a lot of universal themes that women struggle with. I've struggled with that too. Um, Now, but fear is also a theme that came up in what you were just sharing with us and in your chapter. In fact, in your chapter, you describe the fear like in a very descriptive way, like your grip, your footing, your very breath. Like if we could just talk about the fear. Personally, I could never jump off a cliff or rock climb. Like I wouldn't even be tempted to do that. So I'm curious why you accepted the invitation. But do you now view fear as a friend? Like what was the message that fear had for you?
Well, I definitely, why did I accept the invitation, right? So I used to live my life in fear and not do the things that scared me. And I was scared of a lot. I grew up as an only child in a very overprotective household. I had two parents who came from humble, hard beginnings, who made a name, like made the American dream for themselves, had a beautiful yard, beautiful daughter, beautiful life. We're going to bubble wrap her and protect her like crazy. And to this day, when my dad and I talk about it, he's still two thumbs up. I did my job perfectly. I'm like, Dad, you see like safe kid, the world might see anxious wreck. And he's like, yep, but you're safe. I did good. So I was scared of so many things. And um, I just grew up hearing what a dangerous place the world was. I think that a lot of us with well-meaning parents might feel the same. It's easy to develop anxieties about certain things. And I was in my 20s when I got really tired of it. And unfortunately, after that, I started dealing with health challenges pretty seriously. I was dealing with gut issues that then were a chain reaction through my whole body. My hair was falling out. I couldn't eat hardly anything. And it kind of culminated in finding a large lump in my right breast. And I had just lost health insurance. And I know you're Canada, living in Mexico, American health insurance is inaccessible to say the least. So there was not a lot of good options for me. And now, though, it's hard to even feel any kind of negative feeling about that time because it made me so strong. And I was able to do some alternative methods. I remember being on the back pages of Google, just trying to figure out what was wrong. Ended up healing my gut, healed everything else. I can still remember the day standing on my front porch in Florida, like, oh my gosh, I feel healthy and I feel vibrant, and health is our greatest wealth, and time is our most valuable resource. I'm not living, I'm going to start living. And so I think to answer your question about why did I accept the invitation to go cliff jumping, it started that day that I realized, life is for living. And so I packed up everything in my four-bedroom Florida house. I sold everything I owned and ended up with a one-way ticket abroad. So skipping ahead maybe a year and a half or so, cliff jumping was another big scary thing that was confronting me that I would see, oh, I wish I could be like them. I would see carefree free spirits leaping off cliffs into turquoise water, and my inner being, my physical body would give me a reaction that deeply wanted to be that person. But fear was what was in the way. So I began to look at fear. I don't know if I would call it a friend, but a bit of a compass, an orientator of what kind of feeling of fear are you getting, right? And there's this walking along alone in a shady area of town at night. That's a very different kind of fear than the fear feeling you get inside when it's like, that's kind of big, that's kind of scary. I don't know if I could, but man, I wish I could. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those two different kinds of fear feelings. So I began to learn, oh, well, when I feel that feeling in my stomach, like it's a loop, like I've been hooked in the navel, or I'm like going over the edge of a roller coaster, like that feeling in my stomach, that became my indicator of like, okay, yes, I should do that. And it was the same feeling I had speaking up and sharing publicly for the first time. I was terrified of public speaking. And then on the other side of that fear was my life's greatest passion and gift. I was terrified of heights, but it was a something rooted in trust. And so what happened is that when I did face that fear and I did leap off the cliff for the first time and I landed in that cool, salty water below, well, I was unstoppable. For months, there was nothing that I felt like I couldn't do. And so when we signed up for hiking, because I didn't want to do anything strenuous,
Uh-huh.
we started off on a big grassy plain. And then halfway into the hike, that's like, okay, now we summit this rock. So I think that that feeling had already been ingrained in me of like, yeah, but think about the other side. What's it going to feel like when I get to the top? How will I feel incredible? Or if I back away, how am I going to feel if I say no and I don't go after this thing? I'm going to feel my self-talk's probably not going to be great. Let's say that. I will probably be disappointed in myself. It would be harder to push into other activities. And I think that courage is one of the best catalysts for growth that there is. And there was no other way. There was no wasn't a possibility.
So you've made that an absolute in your life. It sounds like you're just not going to settle and allow no to have a place.
Pretty much.
I always was so impressed when I found out that you spoke and you work with Mind Valley because I love Mind Valley. Did any of fears come up when you were invited to be a speaker at Mind Valley that were similar to what you've been sharing with us today?
I love my Mind Valley story. It's probably, I've told a little bit of it. It's a long story to tell it in its entirety. In the condensed version, how I ended up there is that I was already overseas. I was living in Barcelona their first year in 2017. They did the first rotating campus for their Mind Valley University program, which is 1 month every summer in a different city. And the first one was Barcelona. Ended up walking into the last day just to check it out, was able to get a very discounted day pass and was like, oh, this is really cool. I saw Lisa Nichols motivating the masses. She was there, and there's probably like 10 rows of chairs. I mean, it was a tiny room for what it was. So, very direct contact and impact. And I was like, this is great. Really want to do it next year. Um, we'll just fast forward, ended up right place, right time, incredibly discounted ticket, fell into my hands again, went there, ended up splitting up with my boyfriend of 14 years the first night of Mind Valley. It was platonically like, oh, wow, there's a bunch of people like us. I don't think we should be together anymore. We're not happy. High five, see you never kind of thing. And I always go back to that moment because for me, that was a different type of fear. I was hidden next to this person. He was very opinionated, and it was just easier for me to kind of dim my light and not really have opinions or thoughts and like whatever you think, whatever you want, whatever he wants. I didn't want to get made fun of. He's really smart, just whatever. So once we split up, that was what kind of enabled this act two of my life. And I went to a storytelling workshop in the park the next day just to get out of the shared Airbnb. And I got volunteered to share my story after sharing it with one person. And at the end of that, I got pulled into a big group hug, and I said it was going to be a condensed version, and it still is, man. I could tell you about how my heart was pounding, and I walked up, and I never wanted to do it, how I was so scared, and what happened in the air. But in the end, I was like, wow, I can't believe this was the big scary thing. I've been fearing all of my life. I went to a cacao ceremony with Wapa Barhrona, I think is how you say his name, and Reagan Hillier, who more people know today. They were like, what? They're banging on the drums. What's the craziest thing you can manifest in, 1 year? And at this time, I couldn't visualize things. They're like, okay, picture a yellow or orange ball, in your stomach. Visualize this ball. And I'm like, yellow, yellow. I can't picture yellow, right? Like visualization was talk about people who see in colors and musics. I am all words. I had no idea anybody else is not just all words all the time until pretty recently. Sorry, I digress. Visualize the thing. And to me, it popped up so clearly, the purple stage, the logo, it was behind me. And I said, wow, okay, I'm a nobody. I don't have a following. I don't have a business. I don't have anything. I'm going to speak on that stage in 12 months. And I worked very, very hard, completely going down the wrong path and direction, making myself miserable, trying to be a six-figure coach in order to get on that stage. I thought I had to be more than I was, or else I couldn't be there.
Wow.
Obviously, that was not the path for me. And 2 weeks before Mind Valley, I was in between Bali and Europe, and I was visiting with my family in Marietta, Georgia, very near where I am right now. And I was doing yoga on their back deck, and the fight just collapsed out of me. I collapsed mid push up, said, I can't keep fighting this anymore. And I remember almost hearing the tangible mask fall off, shatter. Who is this achiever identity who needs that so bad?
Wow.
Is it the worst rock bottom thing if I come live at home with my parents for 6 months, figure out how to be an author, do what is true to me in my heart, and go to Mind Valley next week just as a nobody, as an attendee? And that night I did something that I'd never done before. My self-talk wasn't, I can't believe you applied, da 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 da. My self-talk was, good job, Christy. I'm proud of you. You know what? You should apply every year until you get it. You've never spoken before. What made you think you would get it? It's okay. Keep practicing, keep applying. I woke up the next morning, I opened my email, and in my inbox, I screenshotted it because I thought it was going to go away. There was a message, Christy Renee Stehle, please confirm you have a ticket to Mind Valley University. We would be honored to have your program on our main stage. Thought,
Wow.
I have to tell him no, I'm a nobody. I can't do this. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was a very twisty, turvy, path that got me there, but surrender was the theme that I walked away with in that, like letting go of this identity that thought she needed to be more and accepting myself as I was, and then opening that up 2 weeks before an event. Who does that? That's not how things are run.
Yeah, I mean, that's very, I have goosebumps right now because, we have so much programming that we have to do instead of just be and embody. And clearly, you were already the embodiment of the energy that you needed to be invited to Mind Valley. I can't imagine what you felt like when you saw that email.
It was, you know, 24 hours prior, I'd been like, yeah, got it. But like the transformation of surrender that I went through, it's like, no, I'm not worthy. I'm a nobody. And, obviously it was beautiful though. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
That is very beautiful. I actually really acknowledge you because you are clearly someone very important. And I love the message that you're sharing with everyone listening today. If there's any listeners out there and this is hitting your heart spot or resonating with you, tap some comments and maybe you have some questions for Christy about her journey that's really full of transformation. You've shared some powerful metaphors with us too. I could stay here for hours with you, but um, let's maybe back out a bit and go to the perimeter of this container. You went to Slovenia, and some things you'd want people to know about either Slovenia or traveling? Like I understand it has a lot of natural beauty, and it's actually an expat hub. I mean, anything you'd like to say about Slovenia?
Absolutely. The number one question that I get asked, having traveled so many places, is which one was your favorite? And I think that
Oh, well,
like my truest answer typically makes people mad because they want an easy answer. Okay, Italy. That's the answer. That's on my bucket list. I'm gonna go. My truest answer is the places that held the least expectations were the
Mhm.
best destinations. And Slovenia, Estonia, Croatia 10, 11 years ago, they had no expectation. I had no expectations. I'm like, okay, easy visa. It's not in the main like Schengen, Europe. You can pass through. I think you can stay 90 days out of 180. You have all these countries that you can stay in. So I went to other surrounding countries like Slovenia to be basically because I didn't have anywhere better to go. And they were my favorite destinations. People are appreciative of tourists. You actually get to see the natural beauty. You can go explore on your own, I think we see a lot more of it now, especially than we did 10 years ago. But think about, Mykonos or Rome, any of the places that you see on Instagram, like, here's the beautiful view I see. And then they turn the camera around and you see the lines and hordes of tourists. And, it's like, that's not the reality I was expecting. And Slovenia was a place that had such diversity of landscape. And you had like Italian Alps that it shared with. You had so many different food and flavor and just crisp, clean, natural beauty and culture that I don't want everybody to go there and then ruin it. But I always encourage people to go explore the more unseen places. Italy was always my top destination, and I enjoyed it the least of everywhere that I'd been. It's create. I think that a lot of touristic places can be created for the tourist. and lose their natural charm and culture. And I'm so fascinated with culture. I think that's the reason that we travel to see the real place, not be catered to. And unfortunately for me, I know that there's plenty of off the beaten paths in Italy. I only went to the top tourist destinations for
Sure.
sure, but
Um,
somewhere like Slovenia is just
hmm.
breath of fresh air, gorgeous, affordable, so fun.
No, it sounds so enticing. I'd love to go. And I mean, I think that's another neat thing about this book is that if you don't know where to go and you just want to get, a bunch of flavors down and get some ideas, every woman in this chapter went to a different part of the world and experienced a different part of culture. You're a speaker, you're a social media influencer, you're a magnetic coach, Christy. But I'm curious what drew you to be a co-author in this book? What specifically made you say, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write a chapter in this compilation.
Yeah, well, it's all relationships for me. I do a lot of things based on relationships. I'm a big fan of the quote that our net worth or our network is our net worth, or whichever way it goes. And I had met Tina, the publisher, and one of the contributing authors. At this point, I do not remember how we first got connected. I think it must have been on Facebook, and we had a ton of Mind Valley friends in common. So I was like, you must have been at Mind Valley, and I didn't meet you. I think Rusty might have been the glue for us. And we started, I think, on another project together. We just stayed in touch. We're still doing some work today. And so when she showed me the book project, I said, "Oh my gosh, that's perfect for me. I absolutely have a transformational travel tale. I'd love to be part of it and, get to be part of a community of these women."
Okay, based on everything that we just talked about, I have to ask if someone out there is thinking about becoming an author, because this is a series of books, but they're afraid, and we've been talking about courage, what would you say to them, Christy?
I think that we hold ourselves back from doing things because we think it has to be perfect or we have to be better. I mean, that's the same thing I was talking about, right? I killed myself trying to get to Mind Valley thinking I needed to be more than I am. But once I let it go and just accepted me for myself, all my flaws, all my shortcomings, just purely me, well, then one of the best things that day on Mind Valley was the best day of my life because I brought 40 people up to face their fear of speaking and seeing them leave the chains of fear behind was so amazing. And I think that this is much in the same, I'm too scared to write a book. I'm not a writer. I want to be, it's that same feeling of, I wish I could, but
Uh,
I'm not enough.
yeah, or
You've
who
got
am
a team
I?
of people. You've got a team of people. And everybody always likes to tell me being a storyteller, well, I just don't have that's nice and good for you. I just don't have a story. Yes, you do. Everybody has a story to tell. You may just need a little help bringing it out because it's hard to, think of your life as unique when you're the one who's lived it. So, if you're thinking about it, don't hesitate. Meet these wonderful women and get your story out there.
I love it. It's been so much fun talking to you and always a pleasure to connect with you. I loved your chapter. I recommend everyone order this book on Amazon or read her chapters. You can really get into all those details that we didn't cover here today, but it is a very inspiring, moving chapter. Curious, how can people reach out to you and find you? Do you have a website? Would a handle you'd like to share?
Yes, I am on all of the social platforms. Maybe we can include them in the show notes. I do have a website in ChristyRenee.com. I am building a new website as well, which I'll really be focusing on. But for all the intents and purposes of this communication, I think that website and social channels is best.
I think it would be amazing if we could also link in the show notes your Mind Valley talk. I haven't seen it. I'm going to make a point of seeing it. I'd love to also put a link in the show notes to that.
To share.
You can do that. All right. We'll hope to meet you in conversation again. Thank you for your contribution. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Barbara Lapointe on behalf of Clipston Publishing and Wanderlust Chronicles Live.
whispers where the wild wind blows. Every step is a map unknown. I wander free.